What's going on, everyone? Mike Kadlick, Tayler Kyles here for CLNS Media outside of Gillette Stadium as the Patriots just wrapped up day 18 of their 2024 training camp. A big one here as before practice, Drake Maye was asked about the quarterback position, and he did note that while it is an open competition, Jacoby Brissett is still quarterback one and that they will have a decision by early next week. A reminder, we're powered by Game Time, so head over there, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase, and head over to Prize Picks, use code CLNS for a first deposit match bonus up to $100. So, Mayo says that stuff today, and maybe I overreacted a little bit on the X machine, but Drake Maye did see ones reps today in practice. He did take snaps from David Andrews. He did take snaps with David Andrews as his center alongside some ones receivers. Now, he didn't attempt any passes. He handed the ball off a few times, but they're letting him get comfortable behind that first offensive line. I thought that was noteworthy. I think you did too. So, again, what'd you make of that? Feels like a step in the right direction for Drake Maye's development as the quarterback here.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think part of the plan is that they're trying to incrementally get him more involved with these guys. We already saw it in the last block of practices where he was mixing in with pretty much every starting receiver and offensive lineman that wasn't named David Andrews. So again, he didn't throw in any of the periods where he did work with David Andrews. There were actually kicked off two team periods where you did have the entire starting offense with Drake Maye, but then right after you saw a bunch of the starters sub off and get plugged in with backups. We also haven't really seen Drake Maye go against the starting defense where it's been completely the starters and no other like backups mixing in. So don't want to look too much into it, but I think, like you mentioned, it is still significant that they're trying to get him acclimated with some of the veterans. Gerard Mayo's acknowledged it. David Andrews acknowledged it. Even Drake Maye has acknowledged that when it comes to David Andrews specifically, they didn't have any experience since earlier in the offseason program actually, working on snaps with each other.
Yeah, he said the first time they were together since like months ago was in that preseason game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is a big thing, the quarterback-center relationship and exchange. So good to see them make some incremental growth there. But even still, Drake Maye today, I thought, continued to impress. The aggressiveness still stands out. There was a team period in 7-on-7s where he went to back-to-back seam throws that were very aggressive. First one to KJ Osborne. They have been money in the past few practices. Another one was to Austin Hooper, who was perfectly covered by Brendan Schooler down the seam, but Drake Maye was able to make it a catchable pass right in front of Brendan Schooler's helmet. Hooper wasn't able to make the grab, but it was one of those plays you love to see from the quarterback where some quarterbacks would never even try that. We didn't really see Mac Jones attempt to throw over the head of certain defenders, but Drake Maye, we
didn't see Maye do that early on, and he's starting to get more comfortable in it, so I think that's huge.
Exactly. We also saw him again attack that honey hole in cover two between the safety and the cornerback. So I think there was also a play to Pop Douglas where he targeted Pop deep down the middle of the field. I'm not sure if Pop didn't track it the right way because he pretty much went out with one hand to try to get it when it seemed like he could have gone with more of an extension because it was a plenty catchable ball. It would have been a touchdown in a live game. So just once again, continuing to see that from Drake Maye. Also, I asked Gerard Mayo before practice, because we've been talking about it on ourselves and the joint podcasts, is Drake Maye at the point where pre-snap and with running the huddle, he would be able to potentially start right away? That was one of the biggest caveats I felt like for him maybe not being the week one starter or early on starter. Gerard Mayo said 100% he's ready to lead a huddle. So as we talk about this quarterback competition, I think even though some of the reps don't always show it, it truly is a competition in their eyes because they're trying to put Drake Maye in positions where he can get better, and I think he's making the growth that he needs to make.
Yeah, absolutely. That throw to Pop looked pretty much identical to the throw to Javon Baker against the Eagles.
Yeah.
Open down the middle, down the post, it was flipped.
Even more wide open, though.
Even more wide open, and Pop obviously came from the left side here, Baker from the right, but it was pretty much the same thing, same distance, like a 50-yard throw. It looked like he just put it right in the breadbasket, and unfortunately, little outstretched arms hit him off the hand and just couldn't come up with it. But I thought Maye was good today as well. You continue to see him become more aggressive, go down the field. He also hit Jalen Reagor on a nice corner out here as well in 7-on-7 over like 3 defenders in zone coverage. So Reagor found the pocket. Drake Maye found him in the pocket. So again, he looks like he's continuing to progress. Let's talk quickly about Jacoby Brissett. A little shaky again, I thought, from Brissett. A little bit better than yesterday, and he has been in the last couple days, but it's still not 100%. I still think the operation overall looks better when Drake Maye is in there.
Yeah, I was excited for Jacoby because all the quarterbacks looked great early on in practice when they were throwing on air. Everybody was throwing on the money. It felt like the chemistry between them and their receivers was getting better. Jacoby also did have a couple of nice throws today, but they were really kind of done away by the fact that he had 2 turnover-worthy plays. One on a corner route to Tyquan Thornton. Tyquan was covered pretty well by Marcel Marcellus Dial. Dial was able to undercut the route. I'm not sure how much was on the throw and how much was on the receiver, but still, with Tyquan Thornton, you don't really expect him to make those kinds of plays. So, there's always that fine line of I'm the veteran in a practice, I'm going to try things and see if they work, but it didn't seem like a good decision.
No.
And then we had a similar situation later in practice where Jacoby kind of forced a throw to Javon Baker. I could see it developing where Baker ran like a deep curl over the middle of the field. You could see two deep zone defenders closing, and I'm thinking, don't throw this. They have their leverage is very good. This is not going to go well. And then it didn't get intercepted, but it was very close. So I think I agree. You don't want to, I guess, put too much emphasis on a quarterback being aggressive in practice. But again, I didn't think either one was a very smart decision.
Yeah, I just wonder if he's starting to press a little bit, right? Because we talked early on in camp where he's just making the right decisions, the right throws. Sometimes the throw's not entirely accurate, but at least it's to an open receiver. It's the right read. 2 turnover-worthy plays here with Drake Maye on his heels. Maye starts to look better. Brissett starts to get worse. You wonder if he's trying to make those plays to kind of cement himself as that QB1.
Especially in limited practice reps, because Drake Maye got the lion's share of reps today. It really was a very preparation-heavy practice. Gerard Mayo mentioned before that they were going to do scouting more than they have in the weeks past, both for the Commanders and the Bengals. So really it was like Jacoby Brissett would lead off the drills, then Drake Maye would sometimes take 2 different sets, and then in between you would have Bailey Zappi and Joe Milton mixing in as scout team QB, simulating other teams. So yeah, I think the point that maybe Jacoby was pressing, knowing he wasn't going to get quite as many opportunities, could have played a factor.
Yeah, let's quickly touch on the guys protecting these quarterbacks. The first offensive line started out with Vidarian Lowe at left tackle, Sidney Sow at left guard, David Andrews at center, Mike Onwenu at right guard, and Chukwuokorafor at right tackle. That same pretty much first starting offensive line we've seen out here the last couple weeks, but unfortunately during a team period, Vidarian Lowe left with what looked like a lower back, sort of upper body-ish injury, kind of around this area. He was grabbing like
I called it like a torso, like core type of thing.
Yeah, I think torso is the right way to kind of talk about it. He left practice, went down into the medical tent. Shed, whatever you want to call it, behind us.
We still don't know what to call it. It's different depending on who you ask.
Right. Was looked at by trainers, ended up leaving out the back and did not return. And rookie Caden Wallace comes in his place and steps up at the left tackle spot for the rest of practice on that first team. He also rotated back over to the right side, and Layden Robinson saw some run on the first team as well.
Yeah, and the tackle depth was already looking thin. You don't have Calvin Anderson once again, although Nick Leverett for the interior offensive line did return today. But really the only options outside of Caden Wallace were Kellen Dyche, a guy who they got from the XFL or who has experience in the XFL, and Zuri Henry, an undrafted rookie free agent. So you have to wonder if Calvin Anderson would have slid in at left tackle or if they still would have gone with Caden Wallace, but he was working double time because on the left, like you mentioned, he had to go in for Vidarian Lowe, and then with the backups, he continued to work at right tackle. So you have to wonder, are they going to start actually looking at getting another body in there? It doesn't even have to be the guy that just got released from the Titans. Really, they just need somebody to be able to be out here on the practice field and give them something kind of similar to what we've seen with the edge position over the last couple days.
I was just going to say they need warm bodies out here. And speaking of warm bodies, the Patriots claimed wide receiver Matt Landers. He played at Arkansas in college. He was out here in Matthew Judon's old number 9. We saw him. Check him out on Twitter. He looks like he's 6'4", 200 pounds. He's a beast. But they also signed Christian McCarroll and Kobe Jones as linebackers to help that edge rusher linebacker depth. Josh Uche and O'Shane Zimenez come out here. They looked like they were going to start practice. They came out in full pads, but quickly left and were non-participants. So good thing that they're starting to fill those, fill out the roster with those kind of back-end guys.
Yeah, really not a whole lot to glean from the new additions to the defensive line. The one thing that did stand out, though, the Patriots do this kind of Oklahoma drill where they don't start on their back and then turn around, but it's basically just like a thud drill. That actually might be a better way to describe it. And McCarroll actually had a rep where he got some love from defensive coordinator DeMarcus Covington, had to go twice, him and Deshaun Fenwick. Like something went wrong the first time. The second time, you could hear the impact. He stood Deshaun Fenwick right up, and then DeMarcus Covington came over and gave him a low 5. So nice little moment from the new addition, but still the edge depth is not good because you really don't want either one of those guys to have to play significant reps in the preseason if you can help it.
Couple more housekeeping items. Sean Wade comes out here full pads, participates for a little while, and then left with what looked to be an injury, left with a trainer down the back end of the practice fields here. And at tight end, Austin Hooper returned and actually participated today. Mitchell Wilcox was out here, not in pads, and ended up not being a participant. So a little bit more help at tight end with Austin Hooper returning, but Mitchell Wilcox still limited. So we'll see what happens there. Anything else stood out to you today?
It's all for me. Actually, no. Marcus Jones did have an interception when he was working against the scout team. Joe Milton didn't seem to see him when he was in cloud technique, and then just came up from underneath and picked the quarterback off. So that was one of the highlights for the defense for tonight.
Love it. That'll do it from our Patriots training camp report out here in Foxboro. We'll be back as the Patriots wrap up the rest of the of the week, Thursday and Friday here, so make sure you check us out on Patriots Press Pass here on YouTube and read all of our written work all over at clnsmedia.com.
Make sure to subscribe to Patriots Press Pass for all your Patriots news and updates on YouTube, and for all our written work, make sure you check out clnsmedia.com.